This is a very special event each year where we recognize a GSB faculty member or members for MBA teaching. We've all had teachers who have impacted our lives. This award is an opportunity for our students to recognize and celebrate the impact an awardee has had on the GSB community. GSB faculty, as you know, is an extremely distinguished group. Our faculty are leading scholars in their fields, and their ideas have fundamentally shaped the way people think, the way businesses operate, the way markets work. But in addition to being leading scholars, it's very important to us as well that they are dedicated and extraordinary teachers. They bring the latest research, their frameworks, insights into the classroom. They challenge students to think critically and deeply, to understand the why and not just the what, and to expand their thinking to encompass new ideas and perspectives. And as I can attest to personally, in the best situations, our students do the very same thing for us, for our faculty. So I'd like to recognize all of our faculty for their commitment and dedication to teaching, which I knew probably made this selection process especially difficult. Our faculty and lecturers are at the heart of the academic experience here at the GSB. And so when it comes to prizes, there are few recognitions at the GSB that are more meaningful than being honored with the Distinguished Teaching Award. Which is why, as of last year, we decided to create two categories for the award, one for excellence in teaching in the core and one in our electives. So I want to thank the academic committee and the selection committee for their work to make this event possible and a success, and also for taking on the challenging task of selecting recipients for the Distinguished Teaching Award from among so many worthy candidates. So let me hand it over to them, and specifically to Claire Benninger. I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all for being here this afternoon. We gathered today to celebrate something truly extraordinary, the art of teaching. In a world that's very fixated on what we measure and what can be quantified, something we often overlook is the impact of a great teacher. Think back to that moment when a concept you had learned suddenly clicked, or when curiosity was sparked, or when you found confidence that you didn't know that you had. Behind those moments stood a teacher who saw potential before you recognized it yourself. The distinguished teachers we honor today do so much more than transmit information. They build foundations for future discoveries. They nurture critical thinking in a world that so desperately is in need of it. They care deeply about students and go above and beyond to help students learn inside and outside the classroom. GSB and Stanford really pride themselves on many things, right? Our alumni, our achievements, and our reputation. But nothing defines us more profoundly than the quality of our teachers and the knowledge they share and the relationships they build with their students. For over 40 years, GSB MBA students have used this award to recognize the teachers who embody excellence inside and outside of the classroom. This award is the highest faculty honor offered by students and reflects the exceptional impact these teachers have made in our community. I'd first like to, on behalf of the committee, thank Abby Alter for leading the charge in collecting students' nominations and her work for engaging the student body, and to thank Kristen Karras. Where are you guys? Over here, there we go. Kristen and Ashley, as well as Kaisa from the MBA program team for making this award and ceremony happen today. We'd also like to thank Dean Margaret Hayes and Dean Paul Oyer for your guidance throughout this entire selection process. Each year, the MBA student body chooses an anonymous selection committee to oversee the process of determining the award winners. The selection committee evaluated instructors based on, first, their excellence in in-class instruction, and second, their dedication to students outside of the classroom. While there were many outstanding nominees, only one was selected for the core and distribution courses and one for the elective courses. This year, we received around 90 nominations for 40 different instructors. So thank you to, of course, all of our classmates who helped us celebrate such wonderful instructions. And to our nominees and our winners today, your students really feel your impact, and we are deeply value the commitment you have to outstanding teaching. So now I would like to welcome up Rob to celebrate Professor Daniela Saban.
Today, we honor a professor who transformed what could be an intimidating core class into one of the most supportive, empowering, and learning experiences of our MBA 1 year. That professor is none other than Daniela Saban. Professor Saban teaches optimization and simulation and modeling, or OSM. Yes, the course many of us feared would bury us in queuing models, Little's Law, and batch size calculations. But what Daniela built for us was more than an operations class. It was a master class in how to learn. She balances expertise and intellect with warmth and empathy that is rare. For many of us returning to the classroom after years away, and for some with zero background in modeling, statistics, or even Excel, that's me, Danielle created a space where it was safe to say, I don't get it, and know she'd meet us with encouragement and not judgment. One student wrote, I was bottom quartile after the midterm and had never felt more out of place in the classroom. But Daniela never gave up on me. She met me with individuality, cheered me on, and made me believe I could do hard things. That student later scored in a higher quartile on the final and was, more importantly, walked away believing they belonged at the GSB. And I should know because that student was me. That's the magic of Professor Saban. She doesn't just teach content, she teaches confidence. She makes time for every student, mastering the rare skill of teaching rigorously while never letting you feel left behind. As one other nominator said, she was the first professor who made me feel like it was okay not to be perfect. And in doing so, she helped me learn better than I had ever done before. We often talk to the GSB about belonging, creating inclusive learning spaces where everyone feels they can thrive. Professor Saban doesn't just talk about it, she lives it. So for your intellect, your empathy, your refusal to let us give up on ourselves, and for the thousands of Slack messages you answered with kindness, thank you. Professor Saban, you've made an extraordinary mark on all of us, and it is our esteemed honor to recognize you as one of this year's Teaching Distinguished Award winners.
So much. I mean, I'm so happy for the award, and thanks, Rob. Where are you? Thank you so much for the very, very kind words. So I wanted to start with the easy part, which is just thanking everyone who has, or not everyone, but many people who have done a lot for me in the teaching front. So let me start with OSM team, professors, Yuehu, Kostas Bimpikis, Dan Yanko, and Huang Shu. They are amazing. We work very well together. Professors Yanku and Bimpikis actually did a lot to revamp this course, flip it, and make it what it's today. And Yue has been my partner in crime in base OSM for the last couple of years. So it's a pleasure to teach with them. I also wanted to thank the 28 CAs that I had in OSM since since I started teaching in 2016, and in particular those MBA 2s that volunteered to be CAs after enduring this the first time as MBA 1s. So this year's MBA 2s, I wanted to thank our Wilk, who's sitting there, but also Katie Goodman, Katie Van Dyck, and Chris West. I also wanted to thank Sharon Lugami. She is my faculty assistant, and she's the best faculty assistant in the whole universe and the person responsible for OSM actually working. And then I wanted to thank Darrell Duffy. He's my teaching mentor. He has been more than amazing, helping me navigate everything related to teaching the GSB. And finally, and perhaps more importantly, the 824 MBAs I have had in base OSM since 2016. Yeah. So that's with the thanks, but now comes the difficult part, which is that when they told me I got the award, I was so happy, but then they told me I need to give a speech. And this is not where I thrive. So, I tried to do the best I could do, which is delay. And after I could not delay anymore, I tried to do the second best thing that I could do, which is try to ChatGPT my way out of it. But unfortunately for me, ChatGPT actually gave me speech after speech that was just shuffling and reshuffling the following: rewarding, humbling, diverse perspective, fostering thoughtful dialogue, engaging deeply with the material, which are all things I really believe teaching is about, but I will never, ever feel comfortable saying out loud. So then I decided, okay, let me just do the only thing that I can moderately do well, which is talk about base OSM. So why do I like teaching base OSM so much? Number one is that even when I'm not teaching, I'm doing research, and not surprisingly, my research is a lot about modeling, optimization, and simulation. So I really like the topics. The second reason is because I really believe that everyone should at least be somewhat exposed to these topics. Okay? And hopefully we make sure that you will get to use these tools to make quantitative decision making, not just to substitute, but to complement decision-making based on vibes, which is completely okay. Okay. So hopefully some of the models we teach you, like how to decide whether to choose compensations with more stock or more cash, or how to trade your players in fantasy soccer, will be helpful in your future lives. And then the third reason is because, OSM is a course where I get to interact with this amazing crowd of MBA students that join us each year, and in a very unfiltered way. So I wouldn't have the same student population to interact with if I chose to give an elective. So that's something I really value. And now let me tell you a secret. I've been in many faculty meetings where people refer to OSM as the broccoli. Good for you, definitely not appealing. So us that teach in base OSM, but all levels of OSM, really try to think very hard how to make this course in a way that everyone takes something out of it, that we try to meet you where you are. It doesn't matter the level that you come into the GSB with, and we really try to make it the more enjoyable class experience that we can possibly give you, or at least not a dreadful class experience. Okay? And when I was thinking about all of this experience in OSM for the past 9 years, I was trying to think what I remember the most. And this may surprise some of you. I really do not remember your grades, not even the grades of those of you that were in the fall. But I do remember the most random and quirky things about you. So I wanted to tell you, I would love to tell exactly what I remember about my 103 students that I had this year, but I don't have the time to do that. But let me tell you what I do remember. So I do remember that there were students coming from Argentina, Australia, Bulgaria, China, Colombia, Egypt, India, Israel, Japan, Korea, Mexico, Nigeria, UK, US, and many other places that I'm sure I'm forgetting about. I also know that some of you moved a lot, but you still have a place that you call home. I know who hates eggs for breakfast, who went to see the Yankees with their families growing up, who went to high school with a Dodgers pitcher, who can cook a good southern meal, who wishes they could still play in a band, and who met their partner through a dating app. I know some of you came to the GFP after being teachers, veterans, college athletes, working in tech, finance, consulting, nonprofits, or helping repopulate Oklahoma. I know some of you hate avocados, koalas, Dodgers, Southwest shifts towards assigned seating, and the restaurants in Palo Alto. Your hot takes on Taylor Swift, Messi, and the middle seats in Airplane, among many other hot takes, made me laugh so hard. I got a new F1 podcast to listen to that I absolutely love, a recommendation for a backpack that was 60% off, and a great explanation of why the Dodgers hat has become a fashion statement. I also know that some of you want to do after the GSP. I know some of you want to go into the nonprofit sector, finance, use your degrees as JDs or MDs together with your MBAs, work in politics, tech, fashion, sport management, create your own thing. Some are looking for a career change and some are still figuring it out. So I just really wanted to thank the class of 26 for making OSM such a memorable experience and also for selecting me to the award.
Fantastic. And now we'll welcome Philip to, up here to celebrate Mike Harmon.
Thank you, Claire. When financial restructuring appears on the syllabus, it typically triggers one of two reactions. Excitement from the finance enthusiasts, mostly represented over here, or quiet dread from everyone else. Yet somehow, Mike has achieved something remarkable. He's created a course that overcomes this divide, becoming a highlight for students across the entire MBA program. With his financial restructuring class, he turned one of the GSB's most technical and intimidating topics into a class that student describes without hesitation, and I quote one of the nominations here, as the best course I've ever taken at Stanford. He balances deep technical expertise with an extraordinary gift for making the complex fields conquerable. For many students, especially those without a finance background, Mike created a space where intimidating financial concepts became not just understandable, but engaging and exciting. As one student puts it, Professor Harmon is a standout who can make financial structuring not only accessible to a non-finance audience, but fun. He does it not through abstraction or simplification, but through remarkable communication of complex concepts and gripping examples. His extensive practical experience in restructuring adds new depth to every class session. The cases aren't just examples of how other people acted, but how he acted. In many of them, he was personally involved on one side of the transaction, which allows him to provide an unparalleled window into the industry. But what really sets Mike apart is not just what he teaches, but how he teaches, with clarity, care, and a lot of commitment. He temporarily relocates from Los Angeles to Palo Alto every year just to teach this course. He holds one-on-one coffee chats with every student. He posts extra hint sheets for those new to finance so they can solve the cases, and thoughtfully pairs teams for the final project to ensure that everyone has a chance to thrive and to succeed. The result is a classroom where everyone feels welcome, from seasoned investors to those students still learning the difference between equity and enterprise value. But the learning didn't just stop in the classroom. Mike invited diverse guest speakers, responded to real-time events with updated course content every single time, and sparked lively Slack discussions that extended far beyond the classroom. He even wrote a phenomenal textbook to match the caliber of the course. The praise from students has been near universal. These are all quotes. He's the most available, professional, competent, humble, and excellent professor I've had at the GSB. He's a phenomenal teacher who truly prioritizes learning and demystified a complex topic. It's a super technical class, but Mike got amazing engagement from his students. He truly cares about his students, and I can see the passion he has for the topic. And perhaps most telling of all, his teaching earned a perfect 5 out of 5 review among all the students he taught, a score that's otherwise practically unheard of. So today we're really proud to recognize not just an outstanding teacher, but a mentor, a role model, and a professor who has fundamentally elevated the teaching and learning experience at the GSB. So please join me in honoring the winner of the 2025 Distinguished Teaching Award, Mike Harmon.
Thank you, Philip. That was amazing. Wow. I'm feeling very grateful today. So first of all, I'm very grateful for my wife, Patrice, who's here. She just had knee surgery last week, and yet she managed to hobble onto an airplane and come up here from Los Angeles to support me. But more broadly, I'm very grateful to her because every year she shows a lot of patience and understanding with me. So as Philip said, I leave our home in Los Angeles and move up here for the winter quarter for 10 weeks. And she puts up with that every year. So I'm very grateful.
I get the remote control.
But I'm also very grateful to this school for giving me a chance. And let me put that into context. And for those of you who don't know me very well. So I graduated from that other business school on the East Coast. And I've spent a 30-year career advising and investing in broken companies. And I teach a class here at the GSB about those same sort of broken companies. So when people hear that I teach at the GSB, they say, wait a minute, Stanford, the GSB in Silicon Valley, that school is all about growth and innovation and entrepreneurship. Why would anyone want to hear about the dead and dying companies that you like to talk about? Well, I'm going to make the argument that my journey to the GSB has everything to do with the fact that this school not only teaches entrepreneurship, but it lives it and breathes it to the core. Because several years ago, I was in the middle of a long private equity career, and I came to the decision that it was time to make a change, which was absolutely terrifying. And after doing some teaching as a guest at another school, I realized I love teaching. And I really wanted to have a more permanent, regular role doing it. So my strategy was find a school that doesn't yet offer something that I thought I could build and teach. And so in my research, I realized that the GSB didn't yet offer a course on financial restructuring, something that other schools did offer. But I didn't have any connection to the GSB. So I cold emailed Daryl Duffy. And for those of you who know Daryl, you might know that he's a very busy person doing a lot of important things, like saving our financial system. Today, as we speak, he's testifying before Congress. And yet, he always finds time to answer his emails when somebody's asking for help. And so we set up a call, and I pitched him my idea. And after some thoughtful back and forth, which included my making a couple trips up here from my home in Los Angeles, I asked him, do you think this idea has a chance? And he said to me, you know, this idea, I think it's going to happen because it's a good idea and I'm going to support it. And then he introduced me to Amit Saru, and he was equally as encouraging. And then I met Paul Oyer. And in our meeting at Coupa Cafe, after hearing my pitch, he looked at me and said, we'll try any good idea once. And I love that because embedded in that statement were two messages. One is, we're going to give you a shot. And the other is, don't mess it up. So they introduced me to a tenure-line faculty member, Claudia Robles Garcia. Together, we launched the course in 2021. So I'm so grateful to all the people that I just mentioned, Daryl, Amit, to Paul. I'd add Peter DiMarzo to that list. By giving me the opportunity to pursue my dream here, you've truly shown that the GSB embodies that entrepreneurial spirit. I'm grateful for the stories that I get to tell in my class. And I don't get to take credit for these stories. I don't create these stories. These are stories that exist in the real and crazy world of financial distress and restructuring. So my role is simply to repackage these stories, and then I'm a vessel to deliver them into the classroom. So I like to think, if you're fans of the hit television series Succession, the writers of that show could only dream of coming up with some of the crazy dramatic stories that I get to talk about in my class every day. But you know, the content is so compelling that 2 years ago, something remarkable happened. My teaching partner, Claudia, came to me and said, you know what, I love this stuff so much. I don't want to teach it anymore. I want to go do it. And so she left Stanford and went to Wall Street to pursue restructuring transactions. So in a strange way, we switched places. I went from practice into teaching, and she went from teaching into practice. So I'm very grateful to Claudia. I hope that she can see this video at some point, for being my partner in crime, launching the class, and keeping it alive for the first 3 years of its existence. I'm grateful to all of the people at the GSB who keep the trains on the tracks and keep them running on time, and especially my faculty assistant, Lillian Baxter. So you might be interested to know that Lillian also supports one of last year's DTA winners, Graham Weaver, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I'm very grateful to my TA, Michael Liu, who did a phenomenal job in our class. And lastly, I'm grateful to my students. You are why I do this. People ask me all the time, why do you go all the way up to Palo Alto to teach? Why don't you teach somewhere closer to home? Well, the answer is, here I get to teach the best and brightest students in the world. And so it's your energy, it's your enthusiasm, your engagement, your curiosity. That's what keeps me coming back year after year. So we have this concept in my course. It's one of the core themes. This idea that there's a set of tools, I call it the restructuring tool set, that a company can use to improve its balance sheet, become a better version of itself, and then create in that process significant value for its stakeholders. So in an analogous way, this community has allowed me to restructure my career and my life in a way where hopefully I can create some value for others as well. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. This is a huge honor. Thank you.